And we're back with MSP Tech Data from Datto. Jeff Farris here, President and CEO of CloudRadial, and I've got Ricky Cecchini, who is our Director of Business Development. And now we're going to focus on CloudRadial's flow. Probably should have this at the beginning or the end, but put it in the nice juicy middle for whatever reason. But we're going to use this episode of Tech Day to really get into how CloudRadial should change your workflow in working with clients and thinking through that engagement from beginning to end. So again, CloudRadial is that single integrated pane of glass that brings together account management, service, and clients together to get everybody on the same page. Lots of tools, lots of features in the product that, again, either work to benefit everybody or help the various groups work together inside the organization or with the client. So lots of features here, and this episode will touch a little bit on all of these and talk about how they work together. So real quickly, just to set the stage for the deep dive, I want to talk a little bit about client flow. And you know, we get again, a lot of clients start with us in different phases of this flow. Some will start with CloudRadial because they want to address ticketing. Some will address CloudRadial because they want to improve client reporting. Some will get into the QBR planner process. And it really doesn't matter how you get started with CloudRadial. All of those are great places to jump in because it is basically impossible to jump in everywhere at once. So, but as you work with CloudRadial, what you're going to find is that there's a strategy behind CloudRadial much more than a tool set. We're not keen on giving you one more thing to manage. We are keen on giving you one more thing that basically makes things easier on you and your clients and improves that retention and transparency that you're trying to achieve. So one of the things in CloudRadial is the best way to think about this is everything on this board right now or on this slide is a part of CloudRadial's mission statement. So if you look at the pre-sales piece of it, I want to go into this just a little bit longer, and then in the deep dive, Ricky will go through more of the rest of it. But in the pre-sales piece, it's important to think about CloudRadial as a way to showcase your services. And by that, I mean when you walk into a client's office to pitch them on your business, typically the deliverable is a brochure and a handshake. And then the rest goes off and happens magically in the background. And whether that's assessments, whether that's a service setup, whether it's Office 365 migrations, lift and shifts to the cloud, dark web monitoring, whatever that is, a lot of times that happens kind of in the shadows of the client. If the client is in manufacturing, the day after that contract is signed, they're still in manufacturing, and nothing's really changed for them, except they now have a monthly obligation. So what you want to do in the pre-sales piece with CloudRadial is, number one, show them that you're going to be different than other MSPs they've worked with in the past or other MSPs that are pitching them at the same time, by showcasing the fact that you're going to deliver a platform that's going to help the client ensure that they're getting the most from their money. So in pre-sales, it's easy to show clients what you're going to be able to do with the portal, with reporting. You can even load up the agent on a couple of their workstations if they'll allow you to do that, to give them some sample endpoint reporting. You can give them a sample project plan. You can give them, again, lots of good data up front, or at least screenshots of good data to show them what their portal is going to look like if they sign with you. In CloudRadial, again, if you think about this, every other vendor that's out there besides you is focused on trust us mentality. You know, we're gonna take your money, you're gonna trust us, we're gonna meet quarterly or annually, and we're gonna show you that we've spent your money wisely and we've delivered results. And with CloudRadial, the focus on the pre-sales is to show clients every single day that you have them, and you start that expectation in the beginning in the pre-sale side that you're going to deliver value to them and insights and transparency, and basically show them that you're doing exactly what you said, if not more, through this now SaaS product that's white labeled around your brand. And so I just think it's so critical that as you're bringing on new clients, it's easier, even with CloudRail, the opportunities to re-onboard clients, that you bring them into the fold and you set those expectations and you train them at the beginning to understand that you're not the average MSP. And it's surprising how many of our clients report back to us that that's actually what they've heard from their clients. So as you go back through the pre-sales, CloudRadial you'll find can be very adaptable in the onboarding experience. Again, everything's going to translate. Everything wants to gravitate right away into ticketing and upsells. But again, if everything's feeding to the report, the planner, and the QBR process, again, if you think about the ITL process of change management, we've really replicated that whole process here in CloudRadial because we're going to go through that process. The QBR is going to identify those changes that need to be made. That effectively is going to put you back into a pre-sales process, back into an onboarding process, back into reporting planner. And so again, this is a nice evolutionary platform for you, and it's a great evolutionary platform for the relationship for you and your client. And so again, as you implement all the different features of CloudRadial, what you'll find is you really have a nice flow going through this process. The key things through all of this is one is understand that CloudRadial is both transactional in the sense it's going to help you do tickets, it's going to help your clients order stuff. So again, there are transactions that can occur in CloudRadial. It's also informational. So again, it's the reporting. It's all of those aspects of pulling that information together for clients. Everything we're doing, everything you're seeing in these webinars is client facing. What you're seeing is what the clients see through this process. Everything flows through the planner because everything is designed to be actionable. Again, it's not necessarily just a report for report's sake. It's about taking those workstations, for example, turning those into warranty reports, turning those into productivity reports, and turning those into QBR items or planner items, turning those into QBR discussion items, and turning that into potential a new opportunity for you and your clients to improve your business mutually. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ricky for the deep dive on the CloudRadial flow.
Thank you very much. Let me just grab the screen control here. All right, let me know if you can see that okay.
Looks good.
Cool. Yeah, so for myself, I am kind of like the product coach here at CloudRadial. So I do this a lot with a lot of customers where I kind of figure out where their best entry point is for the portal. And going through all of it, obviously, there's a bunch of features, so it's actually a very difficult task to go through it in great detail. But I think strategically, it makes a lot of sense. I tend to break it up into quadrants. We kind of, even during demos, we like to look at it that way because I think it's a lot more digestible. So initially with a strategy, there's so many things to think about. You're not necessarily thinking about what we want you to think about in the overview. You're almost thinking about scratching an itch, right? People come to us all the time with one thing. They want to improve their ticketing. They want to improve their QBR process. They want to improve their reporting, right? All these things add together to function the same problem. It's always a client experience thing. But tackling that in a way that kind of solves it once and for all sometimes requires looking at it in kind of a more complete view. And that's kind of what CloudRadial is built to do in the first place, is be that complete view. So the first quadrant to CloudRadial may not even be something you ever thought about. It's actually almost more like an intranet view. And we start by working our way kind of down these left-hand feature options. And that's the typical play to get into it. And what we're looking at right now is you're seeing our demo account. And this one's an example of a tenant that's been pretty far along, right? This one is one that is set up to be very ticketing aspect focused. It's got a lot of KB articles here. So when the client, the end user first logs in, they see something like this. Now, they're not always like this. More common is something more like this when you first log into it. If you ever did a trial with us or you tried out for the first time, you're going to get provision of trial tenant that looks like this, where it has more of like this application view. And the reason that we start off with stuff like this that may not even be relevant to ticketing or QBRs is because the focus of a client portal, whether it's in pre-sales or even in day-to-day usage, is the client. And the client's job is their own. And they want to make sure that whatever you're giving them is not another burden on them. Just like you don't want something else to manage that weighs down on you, they don't want something else that doesn't add value to them. So a lot of the first quadrant of CloudRadial is intended to give the client as many ins as possible to make it something they would use day to day, obviously, because that makes it useful, but also that increases the stickiness because it really just takes one feature for them to sink their teeth into, and then you've got something that is both collaborative and actually helpful. So it's natural to want to start kind of working your way down, and keep that in mind for the first couple options. So if the hook is going to be a support ticketing homepage and you want to do a ticketing portal, go ahead, right? If it's going to be that application homepage like I showed you here, that might be good too. And if you work your way down to company and applications and calendar and directory, even the knowledge base, right? CloudRadial has all this stuff built in for that purpose. Give them a place where they can share, they can see information, and they can build off of it themselves if they want to. I tend to jump down past the company area to the university spot to show you that CloudRadial even has like a built-in LMS into it for this purpose, where you can go as far as to make training for your companies, for your clients in here, right? You can go in, you can add courses, you can make quizzes appended to them, it can actually generate certificates so we can track user completion. But all of this really is for the same goal, right? So whether it's the KBs, the knowledge base, the quick starts, which is like a deployable like PDF so we can share across everything, one of these things is going to serve to be the hook to get your clients to find use in this day to day. Again, most commonly, a lot of people come to us looking for something that can help them alleviate their ticketing problem, which ends up being your client experience problem. And that's something we just talked about as well. So ticketing is also a big part of that. So even in the pre-sales process, when you're first showcasing the client, it's nice to be able to showcase that you're not just going to force them to a portal because that's your process. You're going to give them something that has a ton of resources for them to add to. If they don't want to, that's fine. There's no management. It's just something that you can use as a platform to share. But if they've been looking for something to train their own employees, to add their own knowledge base, to add their own PDFs, you've got all that in there. Ticketing is much the same, right? Whenever you go there, you can actually show them what does support from you look like. Obviously, you'll all have your own support in various different ways in various different areas, but giving them a consistent experience where they can go, click on an area, log the ticket, I think is kind of expected, especially from an IT provider. So this works much the way that I think a lot of people want it to work. They answer the questions on your side of things. This is not replacing the PSA's functionality. This is serving as the client-facing piece to it. So building these tickets whatever way you want to, customizing the categories, right? The drop downs, the routing to which they go, to what boards and queues and all that kind of stuff. That's all doable on a ticket by ticket basis. But we also start you off with actually everything you're looking at here in the demo account would be yours as well. You start off with a nice chunk of content. I think where this matters and where it starts to make a difference is how we start to present the portal. Like Jeff was saying, more in the QBR mindset in transformational, right? So not just offering them something like ticketing, but even service request areas. So splitting that two apart and becoming something that now they can order things, right? They can go buy a laptop from your site. They can see everything that you have available to them. You're giving the keys to them, right? You're now saying this is a collaborative thing. Here's the thing that we can collaborate on as you see fit. Order stuff, route that, you're routing these things in whatever way you feel like to your own sales boards. But for the most part, you are sharing that responsibility of knowledge base, intranet, ticketing area. That's all kind of packed into one. As you work your way further and further down into CloudRadial, you can see that that's a lot of that first kind of quadrant, but there's a lot more to it. And I think something that's worth taking a pause for a quick second and mentioning is that this is not what we intend every user to see. Because I think if you look at it and there's a lot of features and you think that, it's like, oh, my users are going to be scared. Yeah, probably, but that's also not what we intend. The short answer here is that clients are actually going to see different things depending on their user level. So an administrator, you could say I'm about to impersonate as, is going to see all the options available in the portal. And that's really going to follow that flow, right? From the pre-sales to the intranet down to the QBR. Your end user, your typical end user, is really only going to see those first 4 tabs. And that's worth mentioning because that is really what your average day-to-day person needs to see. Just the stuff that helps them do their job, just the stuff that helps them complete whatever they need help with. So as we explore further down with the mindset for the QBR, we kind of enter the second quadrant, which is reporting. We just did a couple of sections on these minutes, I guess an hour or so ago at this point. But when we go down, this infrastructure to compliance is kind of your reporting quadrant. So at the very least, what we can do is we have our own native agent that's pulling in configurations into CloudRadial, kind of like an RMM is, to a different effect, but similar. So you see that in this demo account, I've got a bunch. And now the client within their portal now not only has an intranet, but an administrator can get eyes on the endpoint devices within their environment, right? So an overview of them in business specific terms, the protection, the storage, the OneDrive usage, the configuration. And this still might be a little bit too much for your average person, certainly. We're doing that a lot automatically with our agent for the endpoints. We're doing that for the servers with a connection to Aavik, which is optional. You can also do that for the network devices. The reason we do this, again, at the very bare minimum, is for inventory purposes, but more importantly, to start scaling that conversation for the QBR, to start kind of generating some talking points. So this by itself probably won't do it, but by doing all of these things and putting them in here like this, we're able to start applying rules to these things. And with these rules, we can start to generate talking points. And what I mean by rules as we close infrastructure is that's kind of largely an automatic data gathering tab. We're going to jump down to compliance. And in compliance, you can see those rules being applied as policies. And these are things that you can create and manage from CloudRadial. So all of the data that we're picking up, you can start to say, hey, what do we want to look for, right? Is there a certain AV we need to have on everybody? Is everybody on Windows 10? Does anyone have encrypted drives? And show me those who don't, right? And we can translate that into something practical like this. So all of a sudden, an account manager and a client alike, as they work their way further and further down, it starts to become more of a strategic discussion. It's not just throwing reports at their face. It's not just giving them a ticketing portal. It's about saying, hey, in one place, in a single panel, we're starting to show you you're having security problems. And you can see that in a little bit more of a technical conversation, you've got those rules applying, and we can see who's exceptions to those rules. Now, this is a very high level overview, as it should be. We're trying to focus the client on the server, from the server room talk to the boardroom talk. So it's very much the give me a quick overview, give me some kind of talking points there. Doesn't cover everything, nor is it intended to. We talked about this earlier as well, but one of the more powerful features of CloudRadial is the option to have report archive. So if you don't agree with the strategy, if you don't feel like deploying on another agent, it's not necessarily a deal breaker. Or even if you want to add to this, you can even add your own reports of any variety under the same compliance tab. We have reports, which means that if the strategy is to turn this into a repository for a good QBR discussion, you want to be able to kind of use whatever tricks you have in your arsenal to make that appealing. But you want to be able to frame that in a way that makes a lot of sense for the cloud, or for the end user within CloudRadial. So as you look over here in this report repository, you can see that we've got a bunch of folders in our demo account for the purpose of storing whatever reports we want to. So I can make my folders, I can call them whatever I like, I can set retention policies as I feel fit, right? In this case, I don't want to do any of that. I'll just pick an existing one. And then within these reports, I can go adding my Veeam reports directly to the portal, or better yet, auto forwarding them with the email address. So now what we've done is we've taken something that's already useful from an intranet perspective in that first quadrant. In the second quadrant, we're introducing a way to bring in reports in a scalable way, so you can
I think we might have lost Ricky.
Looks that way. I think you're going to have to take it over.
Are you back, Ricky? No.
No, I'm going to give you the controls.
Oh,
Oh,
he's back.
Are you back, Ricky? Maybe not. Looks like he might be doing a little bit of a reboot.
Let's give him 1 second to come back here. I like one thing.
You were paying attention.
We'll see. Are we getting any questions about where Ricky went? If we're not, then that could be a problem. So
just us wondering what happened. He's gone to get coffee.
So quick follow-up on Ricky's conversation there. Make one point, which is on the flow side. There's two things that are going on. One is to rope that client into the flow of the process, from ticketing to reporting to the planner. And then the other part of that flow, hey Ricky, is to escalate the conversation up back as well. So Saf, you want to make Ricky the presenter again?
I did, did.
Despite Comcast's best efforts, I won't let them get the best of me. Don't worry, guys. I'm still going to do this.
Let me just finish this one thought. Go back to that policies page.
Sure.
Yeah, that one there. And if you can read that, it may be a little small, but basically it starts at efficiency on the bottom and rolls its way up through decision-making, productivity, collaboration, things on the top. One of the things in CloudRadial, not only is the flow designed to help you push the conversation from dry reporting like endpoints all the way through actionable items like upgrades, but also to get the client to think up the flow of the value. So fixing a PC we would see that as an efficiency item, and that is a very typically low margin, low value experience that can be a commodity. So I mean, again, there's lots of different places to fix a PC, and you can search that by price. As you move up that chain of conversation there, fixing a PC is one thing. Helping that PC become more productive for the client raises that or escalates that value tremendously to the client. If it's about just a broken PC, that's easy. If it's about making that worker more productive and basically being able to contribute effectively more hours a day or produce a better quality of work, now you've escalated something flow-wise from something that's a commodity into something that's a much higher business advisor type role. If you've ever done the wills online is a good example. If you've ever done a will online, that's a simple fill out the form, I leave everything to my wife and we're done type of thing. If you're doing estate planning, where you have very complex items to deal with, now you need an attorney, you need advisors, maybe you need an accountant, you need expertise. And the higher up the level these go, the more expertise that's required and the more expertise that you're going to be credited with as their advisor, as their VCIO. So again, CloudRadial is designed both to help you manage the flow of information and the process from pre-sales out to QBRs, but we also want to help escalate and elevate the flow of value from the basic commodity items at the bottom up to the higher value commodity or non-commodity items at the top. So,
yeah.
All right.
So again, it's like, I apologize for Comcast wrath, but yeah, I mean, ultimately the discussion is getting led to a certain point, right? So it doesn't quite matter to us as a platform what it's going to take for your clients. Obviously, we have our own thoughts in terms of what leads to the better discussion. So whether it's something here that can get visualized, that can start to spur a discussion, it's the report archives, which I don't know how far I got it before I got cut off, but auto forwarding reports of any type into these folders via email or manually, right? Get that in there. Or something between, so infrastructure and compliance, right? Basically, this is where these play together. So maybe something like an assessment where you want to run that manually for clients. You ask your questions and you have a place to store it, or Office 365 reporting under usage that we're able to pull in directly and automatically from 365, anything from the data to even like license counts and who's attributed to them. All these things serve to showcase everything the client needs in one area. So the discussion of it can start to get funneled down to, okay, what are we going to do with all of this? So to cut a long story short, as we've been working our way down, I mentioned there's quadrants, the first quadrant being intranet-ish, the second one being reporting. The third one is really largely based off of the account dropdown, and specifically in two areas, really. It's the dashboards and the planner. The dashboards help you take all of the data we just talked about and kind of make it visually appealing and make it kind of succinct. So instead of having them go through all of their stuff throughout the infrastructure area, I can see the disk encryption at a glance. I can see the infrastructure state across like what my models are, my warranty performance and all that kind of stuff in one area. And same thing as the report archives where you can auto forward other stuff. We're not necessarily trying to force you into using our stuff, obviously plenty of benefits to doing so, but whether it's telling the story with this data, telling the story with the service data directly from the PSA, or really anything else you want from BrightGauge, Power BI, you name it, as long as we can get a data feed, we can display it in here. Now you're starting to get a really slick way to give the client a single place to do everything. The last bit of this is that planner. And in the planner, what you can do is you can take all of the points that you've seen and mix and match them in whatever way you want to. And what I mean by that is sometimes people just use this planner as the way to showcase the core services. So kind of a more easy to read planner would be this other tenant I have open, my War Eagle tenant, where it's basically showing you like, hey, here's the things we can do. You drag these over, very simple concept, right? And you basically now have a way to showcase the client very easily what I'm doing for them, what I can be doing for them, and what I'm going to be doing for them over the course of a year. What you're seeing in this additional digital efforts one here, this demo account, is that we've got a kind of a more complex planner with pricing attached to it and all that, but giving them a snapshot, again, a single place, so they never have that question of what are you doing for me, what have you done for me? That's all right there for them. This is obviously potentially another pretty big discussion, but even running reports on this, I did this a bit earlier, and I'll go ahead and just open up my File Explorer view of it. but we can actually run a report based off of all the information that we have gathered in here. So whether it's in the pre-sale or in the QBR aspect, we're even be able to pull the information I just showed at a glance into these branded reports so that you've got all of that information ready to go come QBR day in a scalable and standardized fashion. And that's kind of your third quadrant. The fourth one, which usually doesn't come up too often in the demo discussions this quick, is also the ongoing communications. With a client portal, with something else that is so powerful, you need a way to keep engaging the clients, reminding them to go back, giving them reasons to engage with it. And located within CloudRadial in various ways, there are things such as the messages area where you can post messages, you can send things as broadcast pop-ups. We have a desktop application that actually sends these pop-ups via the system tray. And this is something that, again, at its simplest is an announcements board. At its more complex is something that you can use for anything from, hey, outage broadcasts, or even like if Daily Digest messages is actual emails from CloudRadial reminding people to check messages in their portal that a lot of our partners use for things like product updates or heads up for changes in services. So there's a whole strategy to it that I think flows from top to bottom, and there's lots of pockets in between, but it's a really interesting tool. I guess my parting advice as a coach that has seen this time and time again is, as you look at CloudRadial, always it's natural to come into it thinking about what you want to look at in a singular fashion, right? Ticketing, QBR is this, but really try to examine your client experience as a whole thing and see where you can improve. You do not have to use every aspect of CloudRadial, but certainly it's designed to be kind of a holistic thing for sure.